Hello everybody, my name is Foodle, and today I'm going to be recommending 10 games you should buy on the Steam Autumn Sale 2019. Now this sale and all the deals within will last from today, November 26th, until December 3rd at 10 a.m. PST, which is in about a week. Without further ado, let me recommend you 10 games that you should buy if you still have some money left over after buying Call of Duty and Red Dead 2 and whatever it is that you bought on Black Friday, or will be buying, I don't know. So, without further ado, first game. Rising Storm 2 Vietnam is 67% off, which brings it down to just under $9. Not the best deal on the game, but it's still well worth it. I think Rising Storm 2 it's one of the very, very, very few Vietnam games that's come out, and it's definitely one of the better ones. I mean, it's Red Orchestra Rising Storm that came out, I feel like, maybe 10 years ago, but set in Vietnam, and it does a good job of balancing the Viet Cong versus the Americans, when in reality it wasn't that balanced of a fight, and has some super satisfying gunplay, a ton of maps, a ton of new content, and we'll continue on until the next tripwire game, because that's how these games are. It's a phenomenal game and a phenomenal shooter if you want a big kind of squad, but less about the squads thing. Or you just want to, fry Viet Cong with a flamethrower, because that's mostly what I spend my time doing in this. And I love it. Next game is Hitman 2 Standard Edition Bundle for 75% off, bringing it down to $15. Hitman 2 Standard Edition Bundle is basically Hitman, I think it was 2016 was the reboot, but better in every way. It has a bunch of gameplay improvements. It overall feels a lot more just satisfying to shoot and stab and wreak mayhem on people. And it has a bunch of new levels, but it also has all the original levels, provided that you have the original Hitman, or I think if you buy something in this bundle, I'm not really sure, to be honest. But yeah, it has all those original levels, which were great, plus it has a bunch of new levels, which are huge and packed full of AI. I think there's like 1,000 AI in one mission, which is absurd, and you can kill every single one of them. And again, the story is kind of lacking, but it looks graphically great. It runs surprisingly well, even on my dated computer, and it's just a genuinely fun game to dick around with if you like stealth games and kind of social stealth games. So, yes, you should buy it, obviously, that's why I'm recommending it. Continuing on with the games that you should definitely buy is The Wolf Among Us, which is 75% off, bringing it down to $4. There's no complaints I have about this game whatsoever. Everything is perfect. It's in the top 5 of my favorite games of the decade. I mean, the music, the story, the graphics, the art style, the gameplay, the pacing, everything in this game is so phenomenal. Every time I replay it, which is about once every 2 or 3 years, I'm in awe of how good this game is. It's by far the best Telltale game ever made. It's by far the best episodic game ever made. It's pretty much one of the best story games I think I've ever played, which is definitely saying something. There's literally nothing wrong with this game. For $4, it is a hell of an experience. Continuing on with that hell of an experience thing, there is Stanley Parable for 60% off, which is bringing it down to $6. Not the best deal, but still well worth it. I mean, it's 2 hours-ish on your first playthrough of British humor, but in video game form. It's the proto-walking simulator before they all got really bad and copy-pasted. It's hilarious. It's very, very self-aware. It parodies just about everything. And I was laughing my ass off for the 4 or 5 hours it took me to find most of the endings. Like, it's just a good game to play and fun. I mean, maybe if you're younger, you won't be enjoying it as much, but if you have a good sense of humor, there's no reason you will not love this game and not think it's worth the $6. Drastic genre shift to Insurgency Sandstorm, which is 50% off, and that makes it $15. I mean, what can I say about Insurgency Sandstorm? I think it's pretty much one of the best, or one of the better tactical, in quotes, first-person shooters. I mean, it's not as hardcore as Armored Squad, but not as casual as Call of Duty or Battlefield, and the mix is a super good game. It's the guns and everything, the gameplay in general is super satisfying. There's a ton of different new content coming out just about every month. Now, the maps are great, the AI is surprisingly good. There's just enough teamwork and sense of community here to make it fun for casual games, not too much to suck you into it, and I love it. And there's also a bunch of like small things that you can get really nerdy about that are just not in other shooters. Like you can drop close to empty mags on the ground to speed up your reload, and then pick them up later. It's just great. And I love it. Every couple months I get into this game, I forget why I stopped playing, and then go on to Call of Duty or whatever. But still, you should definitely buy it because it's come a long way and it's dropped halfway in price compared to what it was at launch. So, somewhat on the same note, it's a military shooter. Spec Ops The Line, 80% off, which is $6. I mean, I've been recommending this game since I've been doing these videos since this game came out, coincidentally, about. And I'll continue to recommend it. I mean, it does take a bit of overlooking the fact that the gameplay is pretty much what the story is trying not to be, if that makes sense, especially if you've played it or know about it. But even that in mind, you can combine the two, and you have super satisfying gunplay combined with an interesting enough story that, provided that you separate the two, makes for a hell of a game that is just short enough to make it enjoyable, and just long enough to make it worth the $6. And also, I'd buy it because it's been removed from Steam a couple of times before, and for $6, you know, it's one of the better games of the decade, which I'm going to be saying a lot for the next 4 titles. Like I said, one of the better games of the decade, Super Hot, 60% off, $10. Not the best deal on the game, seeing as it has been out for 3.5 years now, but it's still one of my favorite games of all time. You know, it's time only moves when you do, although it technically moves really slowly. But the deal here is that it's one of the very few games that is very, very satisfying to master. You know, I've noticed myself getting better at this game significantly, and I continue to play it because of that. You know, I'm still trying to master every little thing. It's a roguelite in the kind of the way that you die in one hit and everybody else dies in one hit, and you have to perfectly maneuver all your attacks. But, you know, it's still fun as a first-person action game. It's satisfying when you smack somebody over the head. It's just fun to do. And then when you inevitably nail the level, it's one of the most satisfying things I felt in gaming. Like, if you've been on the fence about this game for whatever reason, $10 is well worth the price of admission for what you inevitably get out of it. Especially seeing as they probably won't be making another one except for the Super Hot mind control delete thing, but ignore that. Super Hot 2 is a while off. On a totally less serious and less amazing, but more an obligatory recommendation thing, Rainbow Six Siege, it's 60% off, which makes it $8. I mean, it's Rainbow Six Siege. At this point, I hope that you know what it is. It's a tactical game, but kind of casual, but kind of not. It's pretty much CSGO level, but with way more enjoyable gameplay. I mean, I'm not big into the competitive scene, that's why I went away from CSGO, but this game is just fun to play for a couple rounds every day or week or month or even year. You know, it goes in phases. They're continually updating it. There's tons of new maps, tons of new reworks. You're not getting in too late because they have a really smart thing that's a newcomer playlist that you can keep on playing to get accustomed to the maps, and the result is a super satisfying and fun game to play. You know, it's just tactical enough to keep your brain from falling asleep, but just casual enough to not make it be like Squad or Arma where you get insta-kill from across the map. You have no clue how to counter it. Yeah, I probably would recommend buying the Gold Edition or whatever if you want a bunch of new operators, but that's kind of up to your personal preference of how much money you want to spend on it. Buy the Basic Edition because that's what I started with back when the game came out, and I'd never have regretted it. Next, we have Fallout New Vegas. It's 70% off. It's $3. I cannot say anything that will make you buy this game if you do not want to buy this game. But it is just, it's $3 fucking. My energy drink this morning cost more than that, and I've spent way more time on this game than I have any energy drink. I think I'm going on 200 hours on this game. I continue to play it. It's the best RPG ever made, without a doubt. I think it's within the top 3 of my favorite games of this entire decade, and that's saying a lot for the amount of games I played. Buy it. I'd recommend you buy the Ultimate Edition, but truth be told, I have never played the DLCs, and that should itself tell you how good this is. I've spent 200 hours, I've never even gone into DLCs. There's no way that you possibly can regret buying this game. Mod the shit out of it while you're at it. But finally, we have This War of Mine, which is a game that I've always recommended and I will continue to recommend into my grave. It's a super, super, super depressing base building kind of, I guess it'd be most equated to almost Faster Than Light, kind of in the same deal. It's resource gathering, and so you have a base, you go out into the world to scavenge resources, and then you come back to your base and upgrade your base so that you can scavenge further and further and further. But the gimmick here, in quotes, is that it's depressing set in like Bosnia or whichever one of those countries was getting invaded in late like 1993 or whatever. It's in a very realistic setting is what I'm trying to make the point of, and it's depressing. You know, when one of your characters dies, you will feel it. When you play music, you know, in your base, it's gonna depress the shit out of you. The consequences you have to, or the choices they have to make and their consequences are very real, you know. You can kill a old couple, and in result you'll gain enough loot, but you'll have to have killed an old couple and you'll feel like shit about it for the remainder of your playthrough. And man, it's just so good, and so depressing. Keep in mind that the developers here are super amazing developers too. They give a bunch of money to charities that benefit kids in war-torn areas. And I think that the charity's okay. I don't know though, to be honest. I don't look into my charities. I would recommend buying the $10 version, but if you don't want to, the $5 version's well worth it. So, yeah, those are the 10 games I would recommend that you buy though. If I had to pick a couple, buy The Wolf Among Us, probably buy Spec Ops The Line, and buy this War of Mine. And if you, for some reason, don't have Fallout New Vegas, all 4 of those together will cost you less than the price of a bar tab, I suppose. But that's a really light bar tab if you're only spending $20. So, thank you for watching. Leave comments, or don't. But check out my other stuff, please, and I will see you all in the next video.